All right, Tony, thank you very much for that. And now we have the chance to sit down with a sitting congressman. U.S. Representative Ron Estes joins us this morning, and we say thank you to him very much for taking the time today. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Shane?
Good, good. Of course, welcome. You're the state of Kansas right now. You're in it. What is the state of Kansas right now?
Well, it's actually great to be back. We've been in Washington. We're typically there 3 weeks a month, and so it's great to be back during the month of August to be able to focus on things that are going on in the district. And of course, one of the biggest things right now that affects Kansas, affects the country's trade. And we talk a lot about that. It's been so important for Kansas agriculture, Kansas for manufacturing. And right now, the biggest push we're putting on is the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. So, NAFTA was a trade agreement. It was passed 25 years ago. It was a great benefit for us in the state and in agriculture and manufacturing. But it's 25 years old, and it needed to be upgraded. And so we've got a pretty good deal that's out there right now. It's been negotiated, and all three countries are working to change their laws to fit under that umbrella. And the biggest piece we need to do right now is make sure that we get that brought forth on the House of Representatives so we can vote for it.
Yeah, it seems as though President Trump took office and immediately that was on the agenda right away. But now here we are a few years into his presidency. It's moving along, but what is the state of it right now? Just a few more steps?
That's right. So there's really just one more step, is to bring it to the House floor and us vote on it, and then be voted on in the Senate as well, and then the president sign it. So basically, it's not a treaty; it's an agreement by the three countries to change their respective laws, all under the same umbrella. And one of the things that we're looking at is just how much greater economic growth will be out of that. So looking at, it's been estimated that there'll be about $68 billion increase in our GNP and 176,000 new jobs. So there's a lot of pluses out of that. There's positives in manufacturing, positives in agriculture. Some of the things that NAFTA didn't quite do right, we can fix in this as well. And so it's been negotiated really well. The biggest piece right now is to get it scheduled on the House floor, and I think we've got some time this fall, particularly in October and November, to actually focus on getting that voted on, getting it passed, and moving forward, and then we can move on. There's other trade agreements we need to do. Japan's chomping at the bit to have a trade agreement with the United States. Obviously, China's out there. That's going to take a little bit longer just because of the way the Chinese negotiate, and they view themselves as, they view themselves as this is their path for being the dominant country in the world. And so once we get USMCA done, they'll see it as another path for them that they need to step up to the plate as well. And so we're going to keep pushing forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to. So right now, I think a lot of Americans can look at their own portfolios and say, stock market's showing record strengths, a little bit of a dip yesterday, but more cash in a lot of people's pockets. Yeah. What do you attribute that to?
Yeah, well, it's just the growing economy. Since President Trump's come in office, we've done two things. One, we passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which put more money in everybody's pocket. In fact, the calculation of 2018 taxes was that everybody below $1 million, at average age income groups below $1 million, all got more money back in taxes. So unless you're making over $1 million, you really got more money back, which allows you to spend on things you want to do, your expenses at home, whether you spend it on your retirement, your kids' savings for college or that you've got the opportunity to do that. And we've seen wages increase. Just recently, May and June, year over year, wages have gone up 5.3% and 5.5% respectively.
Right, we're seeing a lot of big numbers.
That's right, right. A lot of good money in people's pockets, and that's what's important, is everybody gets the opportunity to keep their own money and do what they want to. That's important for them and their families.
Yeah, big numbers there, low numbers in the unemployment as well. So we got a lot to talk about here too. 2020 coming up fast, so a lot of implications there.
That's right.
We're going to take a short break with Congressman Ron Estes, and we will be right back with more. Stay with us. 2020 is not far away. Voters will head back to the polls very soon, and one of the most polarizing discussions will continue to be the U.S.-Mexico border. So I'll ask Congressman Ron Estes, who continues to join us here. Where are we right now with the U.S.-Mexico border? Have you been there? What have you seen?
So let's talk about immigration in general. There's so many things broken in our immigration process. That's one of the things that's, I guess, been most frustrating with me being in Congress, is that instead of fixing small problems as they come along, we allow them to stack up. And whether you're trying to immigrate legally, whether you're trying to be here on a work visa, whether you've crossed the border illegally, there's so many issues there. our immigration used to be that there were a lot of single men and in some cases single women that came in to work. And so our laws were set up for asylum based on that. And what we're seeing now is, in some cases, families, but in some cases, people using our asylum laws to their advantage. So actually renting children and bringing them across the border. Now, we have to deal with that. Yeah. So you can't put a young girl in a jail cell with a bunch of guys who've broken the law coming across the border. So the Health and Human Services Department has to take care of the children. And so there's been a lot of talk about what's separated families and things like that. But in reality, it's making sure that we care for the kids as well as make sure that the adults get treated appropriately. And what we've seen is a huge increase in the number of people that come across the border. Just in the month of May, there was a 36% increase from the month of April. There were 140,000 people that came across illegally, which was a 200% increase from a year ago. So there's a huge number of people coming across. The border's been swamped. ICE and the Border Patrol agents. That's why the president 3 months ago asked for more money for the humanitarian aid, and it took a lot of effort to get that to come pass through the House of Representatives. At the end of the day, we passed it in overwhelmingly, 300 plus votes on the House and 80 plus votes in the Senate. So we recognize that there's some importance. We need to make sure that we address that.
Yeah, and you're going to have a lot to address as well in 2020 and continuing if you are in this seat. Is Ron Estes' name going to be on the ballot continuing?
So my plan is to run for the House again in 2020. Okay. So, I've put a big push on to get in on the Ways and Means Committee. Lynn Jenkins was on that before she retired. It's actually a feather in a cap for Kansas that we have somebody on Ways and Means, the oldest committee in the House. It's one of the three most important ones. And what we do is we focus on trade, we focus on taxes, health care, retirement savings. So all of those issues that are very important for us in Kansas, we want to make sure that we have a seat at the table and be able to communicate some of our Kansas values there.
Congressman Ron Estes, thank you so much for joining us this morning. You have a busy day ahead, so we'll check back in with you later.
All right, great. Thank you, Shane.
All right, we'll be right back after this.